Good evening. This is Wallace Gator Bradley, and I'm the host of the Bradley Report, and it's a show that's produced by a very special person who's the chairman of United in Peace, Inc., none other than my wife, Miss Terry Marsh. Tonight we have a very special guest, and that is none other than the Cook County State's Attorney, the first African American to be elected to be the state's attorney of Cook County. The first African American. I know there's been another woman, but I'm saying the first African American to be elected. Everybody say Cecil Partee, he was a good guy, great man, but he was appointed to the state's attorney's office. I remember that very well because I was administrative assistant to Cook County Commissioner Jerry Butler, and he was the chairman of the Cook County Law Enforcement Committee. And Daly I became mayor, yep. And my job was to go and get the commissioners
to approve
Cecil Partee. Well, that's my history. But we're going to talk about the historical significance, if you will, and the cultural importance, if I may say and be direct, of you remaining the Cook County State's Attorney. I saw the movie about the Central Park 5. I saw here recently, I think it was on Showtime, the story about 16 shots.
Yeah.
I saw you on there, and one thing I saw you, that's why I say the cultural significance, was where you said it, and you can feel the compassion in what you were saying, and why it was important where your mother has made the statement.
Yeah.
She was glad that she didn't have any boys.
Yeah.
You saw how Laquan could just as easily have been your husband, your nephew. You know what I mean? But saying that, and what I'm really saying to my viewing audience, is that you ran on a platform of criminal justice reform. Not biasness, not racial issue, criminal justice reform. I also saw a piece, I think it was on 60 Minutes or CBS or whatever it is, and they were making mention of the platform that you ran on. For the wrongfully convicted, and those who have been convicted because of police misconduct. And the one thing that I got out of that was key, very key. We're dealing with a justice issue. We're dealing with fairness. Some of the guys may have been criminal, but it's a crime when a police officer is involved in misconduct to the point of what Sergeant Watts was doing. Some of those arrests may have been just arrests, but he tainted those arrests because of the things that he was doing, because the officers that were involved with him, who may have been good officers, couldn't be called back as witnesses to justify the individual that they arrested, the suspect at that point, for a crime. I'm saying that, and I'm speaking that because I want my viewers to understand. I understand the system.
Yeah.
I'm a former convict. I got a pardon from Governor Jim Thompson with the help of Cecil Partee, because he said I did the right thing coming back into society. One of the things that I'm saying so much. I've been paying a lot of attention to it. I ain't giving you a chance to speak. I'm just so glad to have you.
You're doing good.
I'm so glad to have you.
Yeah, sounds good.
You know, because I'm also speaking as a concerned registered voter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the things that I know and your viewing audience don't know, when you got into the office, one of the first things that you did was created community outreach. Okay, where you made it where individuals such as myself, family members of people who relatives may have been tortured by John Burge, even though you knew that the John Burge cases was special prosecutor, you still lend them your ear. You know, you open up the office. And people need to know that there's a number that you can call, 312-603-8710. I'm going to stop talking so much because I'm not the state's attorney. I'm just the host of this show. But could you tell our viewing audience the things that you've been doing? Because they think I'm a groupie.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bradley, for having me on with your viewers. It's been a busy 2.5 years. I mean, I came into office at the end of 2016. As you said, I ran on a platform of reform.
Right.
Because I don't believe we can address the issues of violence if people don't believe that the system is just.
Correct.
Right? So if we have our communities that are most impacted by violence who don't want to engage with the police or prosecutors because they know of a police officer who planted guns or drugs, because they had prosecutors who convicted people who they knew shouldn't have been convicted, then we're not really going to make inroads. And so it was really important to me to set the stage that this is an office that cared just as much about reform as we do about public safety, and that you have to do them at the same time.
Right.
And so, you know, some of the things that we've done, like you said, I think it was in the first month and a half that I was in, that we opened the office to people who had allegations of police torture, whether it was cases that we were handling or not. And you were there.
Right.
And
I was so glad because they had a sign that said, "Don't let Gator on the 32nd floor."
That was the joke. It was that they called up and said, "Are you sure that he's allowed upstairs?" And I said, "This is his office too. I represent you." And so we were really intentional around the wrongful conviction work. What people may not remember is on you talk about CBS, you know, a couple of years ago on 60 Minutes, there was a story that was done about Cook County State's Attorney's Office, where it was called the false confession. We were called the false confession capital of the world, and that I was in the office at that time, and I remember watching that and thinking, how awful to have the reputation of being the false confession capital. So I was really intentional. You know, one of the first things we were going to do was on this wrongful conviction work. So we hired, you know, a man who was a former prosecutor and a former defense attorney. He spent the last half of his career as a defense attorney. We put together a protocol about how people could apply to have their convictions reviewed. We wrote out an application and drove the application to every prison in the state. Because we knew everybody don't have the internet. And so it was important that we went and delivered the applications to the prisons to say we will review those cases. And in the time that I've been in office, we have vacated 83 convictions of people who we believe that those convictions were wrongfully obtained.
Right. You know, one of the things that's key, that Officer Watts was known in the community to the point that if an individual wasn't doing wrong, because the officer was doing wrong. Now, he was just as much involved in the drug trade that I'm sure you found out, and fast and found out because he ended up going to the penitentiary. But when you see individuals, and that's what I want to say to my viewing audience, voting is key. It's very key. People say that their vote don't count. Your vote do count. It was just think if the citizens of Cook County, because it wasn't just African Americans that voted for you. You know, I saw you campaigning all over. And for the record, I was with someone else doing the primary, But I was wise enough to make sure that my candidate was running on the same platform about helping the wrongfully convicted.
You sure did.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the general election was easy. She won, and she was straight on the platform that today you see the fruits of her labor. An issue that has come up recently is that in the courts, I was in the court the other day, and it came up about whether or not, hold on, this is where you're talking about the bond
Yes.
issue. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
You know, you want to explain this because you was there speaking.
Yeah, so this was before the Supreme Court Committee on addressing a rule on whether we're going to change how we do bond across the state.
Right.
And so right now, money bond it was the prevalent way that people could get out of jail pre-trial. And it's important for me as a prosecutor to remind people that it's my job to prove someone is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That's my job. Until I do that, that person is presumed innocent.
Correct.
They are presumed innocent. That is American jurisprudence. And what we were finding is if someone would get arrested, they would go before a judge for a bond, and the judge would give them a bond amount that they knew they couldn't afford.
Correct.
So you'd have someone on, our lowest level felony, a class 4, for example, someone possessing a small amount of drugs might get a $10,000 bond, which means that they have to pay $1,000 to walk. Now, I know, depending on what day of the week it is, I can't get arrested for nothing. I don't have that kind of money.
That's right.
And so what we were finding was we had a lot of poor people, not dangerous people, just poor, who were sitting in jail because they couldn't afford their bond. And then you had really dangerous people, guys who know that going to jail is part of the game, right? And so they got their money ready.
So they had their money ready.
They ready.
They ready, right.
Those folks were getting out.
Right.
And so what I said was that that's not fair, because what happens, particularly for people who can't afford to get out, they will be more likely to plead guilty to a crime, even if they didn't do it.
Correct.
Because they figure it's better for me to just get out and get this over with.
And then, one of the things State's attorney, I'm so used to calling you Kim. State's attorney is this. It was other vested interests to show how you bring people together across the spectrum. And they were elected officials, from the county board president to the sheriff, to the chief judge, to Dorothy Brown, the clerk, Madam Clerk, and yourself. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, we worked as a collective, because if we were going to change bond reform, we need the judges to be on board.
Correct.
So Judge Evans had to, have an order for his judges to say, let's make sure that these are bail amounts that people can afford. We needed the clerk, who manages all of the information that comes through bond court, to make sure that we were in line. The sheriff, he sees this is his jail. So he knew that we had a lot of people in there that shouldn't have been there just because they were poor. The county board president, the budget for the jail, for the sheriff, my budget, all comes under her purview. And so we all said, and the public defender, Amy Campanelli, we all sat at the table and said, can we agree that we are out of line with these bonds? And we all agreed. And then we said, will we support this together? Because what happens, and you know this, Gator, something will happen, and somebody will be quick to say that judge shouldn't have done that. Or the state's attorney shouldn't have done that. What we said was we weren't going to do that. We were going to do this together, that, we would take responsibility for what happened together. And we saw just in 5 years, the jail population used to be 10,500 people every day. 10,500 people. Now, as of last week, the jail population was a little under 5,500. So almost 50%. And crime hasn't gone up.
That's right.
And that tells you that we weren't keeping dangerous people in there.
We were keeping poor people in there.
We were keeping poor people in there.
And for all you taxpayers out there, that saved a lot of taxpayers' dollars.
Yes.
Okay? Could you imagine an individual who can't make $100 bond and he get a 30-day continuance to feed that inmate, if I'm not mistaken, is almost like $100 a day or whatever
Housing
it is.
that person is $163 a day.
A day.
A day.
And he's locked up for 30 days.
Right.
I lost my math.
It's a lot.
A lot of money.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Now, one of the things that everybody's talking about is why is Kim down in Springfield? And they talking about legalizing this marijuana. What she doing in Springfield? She need to be in Cook County. Well, the reason that she was in Springfield, okay, is because of the marijuana law, okay, legislation. And I was there. I was down there. And it was wonderful to see her, Tory Hutchinson, Lightford.
Yeah, Kim Lightford.
Kim Lightford. And the other, there's a lot of legislators that was involved in this, black, white, Hispanic, and all. But because I'm African American, it was wonderful to see the legislative body come together from the south side, the west side, from downstate, come together and deal with the issue, because African Americans are the ones that feel the blunt.
That's right.
Oh,
no pun intended.
No pun intended. Who? You know what I mean? Hey, this is a real show.
Yeah.
So anyway, for you to get there and let it be known, you as the state's attorney, the prosecutor, to say that, hey, we need to make it where those that get caught with a marijuana case need to have their record expunged, and the other legislators put it in there so that they can get a second chance.
That's right.
Not at illegally selling marijuana,
right.
Not to make them a better crook, but they ought to be entitled to get a job working within that industry somewhere.
That's right.
So would you elaborate on that?
Yeah, listen, Illinois became the 10th state to legalize marijuana. And so you saw California, Washington State, Colorado. And the fact that we were still prosecuting people where you can go to other parts of the country and it's legal didn't seem fair.
Right.
And so our office had already said, listen, we're not even going to prosecute these cases, even before the law changed in Springfield. And what you find with legalization, there are a lot of people who are going to make a lot of money selling this by the metric ton.
Correct.
While we have people who were in prison for selling 30 grams.
30 grams, correct.
And disproportionately, right? Blacks, whites, Latinos, Asians smoke marijuana at the same rates.
Right.
But blacks are 7 times more likely to be arrested.
Correct.
So when you look at the people who are impacted by the war on drugs, if you will, black communities got decimated on a business that now is about to make broader communities very rich.
Correct.
And so what I said was, if we're going to pass legalization, you absolutely have to have a contingency or a plan in there that says anyone who has a past conviction, we started with the 30 grams, we can go all the way up to 500.
Right.
You have to actively work. Get those records expunged.
Correct.
That they should have a right to have that done automatically. We were going to do it in Cook County anyway.
Right, I know.
And again, why it matters who your prosecutor is. But you might have a prosecutor downstate who doesn't agree with this.
Right, correct.
And so if the law wasn't on the books, you would have people in Cook County treated differently than downstate. And so I went down to Springfield and I worked with Toy Hutchinson and Jahan Gordon Booth and Senator Lightford and the rest.
All night. Now, they thought it was a party, right?
It was an all-nighter. But it was important to us that there would be no legalization bill without some relief for the communities that have been decimated by the war on drugs. And so we have in this legislation that'll be signed by the governor soon, the most social justice equity-centered bill on marijuana legalization in the country.
Right.
And I'm watching places like New York, who is trying to get their bill passed.
Right.
Take our model.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah, you shouldn't. We raised the bar. We didn't say we'll leave it up to folks to figure it out.
You know what y'all did too, Kim? Illinois is the only state that has a legislative.
That's right. That's right.
Piece.
They thought it was impossible. All those other states did it by voter referendum.
Right.
And it becomes hard legislating this kind of stuff. There are people who are adamantly against, and there are things that we really wanted, but we are the only state that has done it legislatively,
right,
and that has it as comprehensive on the equity piece. So even as you try to get licenses, there is considerations and points that you have to give for impacted communities.
That's what I'm saying.
Nothing for us without us.
And I want to say this to my viewing audience. I know I'm because I was a JV Frisker guy too. So you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm just feeling good because I see myself leaving a legacy for my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren. You know what I mean? I'm not saying y'all supposed to smoke reefer. I'm not saying that because we still working on the bill to make sure that you can have a job. That's what I mean? There's still things that got to be right because an individual flying a plane or driving a bus don't have the right to be under the influence of alcohol or any drug, including cannabis.
That's right.
Marijuana. Okay, so now we get that out.
No, I'm with you.
Right.
And a reminder to
She gonna have to do her job now.
A reminder
don't be like, well, Kim, you sit up there and say, oh no, she gotta do her job. Let's clarify that. Right, okay.
The bill hasn't been signed yet, and when it is signed, it doesn't go into effect until January 1st. January 1st, 2020. And there are going to be provisions, employers may still be able to test you. So, you just because it is legal doesn't mean that employers will allow you to do that. So you might still be able to lose your job.
That's right. The employer, and I'm like this. Yeah. They supposed to have that right.
That's right.
Under public safety.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I mean, come on.
That's right. You can't smoke and drive. All the things.
You can't drink alcohol all night and drive.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
Okay, so you got a right to drink, but you got to be responsible. I saw the commercials, drink this wine and drink this beer, but drink responsibly.
That's absolutely
Kim, I want you to share with my viewing audience that you have an election coming up, and it's very important. I'm on record. I'm being with Kim Foxx. I'm going to be with Kim Foxx because it's important. She came out and did what I call a show and tell. She showed you what she was going to do and then told you what she has done. And you witnessed what she had did. And she came back and told you, yes, I did do that. You know what I mean? So I'm seeing where the fraternal order of police, that's something else I saw, and that's 16 shots. For the fraternal order of police to believe that there was nothing wrong that Van Dyke has done, and to viciously attack you. And I'm speaking about that because, for lack of a better phrase, I'm speaking from a gang member vernacular. What I mean by that, the fraternal order of police sometimes act just like a gang, a group of individuals that meet sociably and regularly. And they're attacking anyone that's against them when they do something illegal. You follow what I'm saying? So viewing audience, understand, I broke that down to you because I'm an urban translator. I want you to understand the words that are coming out of my mouth. You know what I mean? Okay. For them to feel that it's all right for police officers to lie. Like the 3 officers, they got acquitted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I want my audience to know, because I know we're going to have to wrap the show up, I tell her this every time I see her. The people of Cook County believed in you to elect you to be over something that was like an abyss of corruption. It's like you walking on a carpet that's made out of porcupine needles.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We know that there's individuals that's in there that don't want you to be up there, so they're going to do things that you are not aware of because you're the supervisor.
Right.
To make it where you ought to be accountable for what they are doing intentionally because they got plans to try to elect someone else to bring back the corrupt atmosphere of that office. So people in Cook County that believed in Kim then believe in her more because she's needed. We got a chance to make it where Cook County can't have the tag of Crook County because the old state's attorney's office was crooked. These are no rumors or innuendos. You can Google it and you can see all the wrong things from John Burge cases to the point that they had to have a special prosecutor come in because the state's attorney after Daley was Dick Devine, and people that was with him was having fundraisers for John Burge. You follow what I'm saying? To the point that now it's in the court. I was in Leroy Martin's courtroom, the chief judge, and there was a motion brought up about Bob Mylan not really being allowed to be a special prosecutor. I know you can't speak on nothing that's being litigated.
You see, I'm giving you the sign.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm not saying you're not saying anything. I'm just. I didn't ask you for opinion or nothing. I'm just letting my viewing audience know that these are the things that you need to be paying attention to. You know what I mean, or what's happening. Okay. But one of the things I do want to say, the reason the argument was being made is because your office, under your leadership, is not tainted with the previous leadership. That's the difference. That's what I'm getting out there. Your office under your leadership, the state's attorney's office under your leadership, is getting newfound integrity up under your leadership. That's what I'm saying. You know, she ain't got me no comment on nothing that I'm saying. The leadership of the state's attorney's office has a newfound integrity up under your leadership. Well, hey, if my wife was here, she'd say, Gator, she be doing that sign, cut it. Okay, I just want to say, Kim, Cook County State's Attorney, I want to thank you for allowing me this time on my show for my audience to see you come and explain what they're saying on the news and what they are reading in the newspaper. Keep it up. Keep it reach. Oh, one thing I want to say. I want to thank Alex. And I want to thank Brother Bernard, your outreach guy.
Yeah.
Your outreach guy. So with that, I want to say to God be the glory. Get out there and vote. Don't choke. Before you get out there and vote, register someone to vote and help get them to the polls. Thank you.
Thank you.